If your idea of a relaxing break is somewhere quiet, which is English speaking, with few people, even fewer cars, some beautiful wide sandy beaches, plus plenty of footpaths to explore, then the Channel Islands might just be for you. By the Channel Islands I don't mean the well-known Jersey or Guernsey, but somewhere a lot smaller with just one small town in the centre. Only 3 miles long and 1.5 miles wide, I do of course mean Alderney, the most northerly inhabited island of the group. In keeping with its larger sisters Jersey and Guernsey, there's a small airport which is at the southernmost tip of the island with a regular service to both Guernsey and Southampton. The only other way of travelling to Alderney is by boat. Okay, so let's take a very short tour of the island, but first start off with a fleeting visit to St Anne. As the airport is so small and the perimeter is just a short distance away on the far side of the small airport car park, one can of course hire a taxi or a car to take you to the town, but if you don't have a lot of luggage, then you might find it easier just to take the short walk instead. Alderney does of course have a selection of hotels, guest houses and holiday let accommodation for visitors to choose from, not all of which are actually in the town. This is Victoria Street, the main shopping street in St Anne. This is a blue plaque building. St Anne's Church is just beyond this building to the right. There are many other interesting places to see here, such as the clock tower in the centre of St Anne, which was built in 1767 as part of the original island church. It still has the 2 original bells which are heard daily, striking every quarter hour. For day 1 of our brief excursion away from St Anne, we will see us travelling northeast along the High Street, which duly turns into Longish Road. Travelling along this road, one starts seeing evidence of the German occupation during the Second World War, such as the cemetery and the German hospital, which is just off the road and well worth a visit. Is only about half a mile from the town. If we carry along the road for another mile, we come upon the remains of a Roman fort, complete with additional German fortifications. This is overlooked by a large building named Essex Castle. At this point we can see that Alderney is quite different to health and safety mainland Britain, as these historic places are all accessible with nothing more than a little notice saying care should be taken when entering. This area of the old wartime German fortifications includes an escape shaft. The fort is right next to Longish Bay, which is complete with its own anti-tank walls surrounded in the northern end. Over to the right we can see Fort Raz, which is situated at the end of a long causeway. Most of the causeway will be covered at high tide. Looking to the right, we can see the Essex Castle up on a hill. The sea is very clear here. Note once again the French coastline in the far distance. Carrying on along the road past 2 more forts, the road curves round to the left as this is as far northeast as it goes. In front of us we can now see Alderney's lighthouse, and just beyond access to Corblett's Bay, which has a fine beach. Continuing down the road, we're now heading back to St Anne and cross a railway line, which makes its way down the northern side of the island to Bray Bay. About halfway back to St Anne, we take a detour to the right and come across Fort Albert and Roselle Battery, which looks down on Bray Harbour. Once we finally reach Bray Harbour, here is Bray Station, which is a registered office of the Alderney Railway. As you will now know, it travels from here almost up to the lighthouse. The breakwater itself is a huge piece of coastal defence engineering, something that requires constant maintenance to keep the sea at bay. There are the remains of a railway track still visible in places along the top surface, which ultimately joins up with the line where Bray Station is now situated. Note that we can see Fort Albert on Roselle Point across the bay. Today we're going to follow suggested coastal footpaths around the bottom of the island in anti-clockwise direction before returning to St Anne. We first go down the road to St Anne towards Newtown and Bray Harbour before turning left up onto the track that leads us down into Krabi. First stop is Platte Saline and Fort Doyle. A quick exploration down into the Fort Doyle bunker reveals a small window looking out over Platte Saline. Here is the same view from the top of the fort. You can see Fort Torges in the distance. Across the Swinge is the bird sanctuary of Baroo. Following the road past this, we're now in Clonk Bay, with its fort at the end of a causeway. At this point we make the obligatory stroll across the causeway. Heading inland along the winding Valpommier path, we catch a last glimpse of Fort Clonk. These helpful pathway markers could be found all round the island. When we finally reach the road, the airport is in the distance, and yes, you can just see it if you look hard. Take a right, we'll shortly reach the track round the west side of the airport past the Napoleonic telegraph tower to the site of the former German concentration camp Lager Sylt. Little of this remains today aside from the gate post and what I believe is the ablutions building. Following the coastal path a little further on, we turn to the right and descend into the Val de Sal, which you can see is lined with bluebells in the spring. If you're interested in nature and wildlife, then this German bunker might be of interest. Open every day, this interesting wartime artifact contains interesting information about wildlife on the island. Please remember to turn off the lights when you leave. After this, the cliff path heads northeast in the direction of Essex Castle, Longis Bay and the Roman Fort. Along the way there are numerous footpaths leading back to Longis Road, which will ultimately take you back into St Anne. This brief look at Alderney has only just scratched the surface of what there is to both see and do, as there's so much more that I have missed out. To conclude this video, let's make our way back to the airport so we can catch our little aircraft back to Southampton. Hopefully you'll decide that Alderney is most definitely a place you'd like to visit in the future. Thanks for watching.